What's up, everybody? This is me and MJ almost 30 years ago. And so you might be asking yourself, so why are you showing that to us now? Well, good question. I'm keeping a promise to my Aunt Lorraine. She asked me, she said, Tony, when I told my friends years ago that you spent an entire week with Michael Jordan, a lot of people didn't believe me. And so would you please post that picture on social media or something so that I can show people and share that with them? Would you do that, please? And so I'm keeping my promise to Aunt Lorraine. This was a very unique experience. I'll give you a little backstory. I was working in Nike at the time, and I was a technical consultant. And I remember it was a Friday afternoon. I was sitting in the office and my boss walked in. And he said, I said, what's up, man? You need something? And he was like, yeah, no, I got a little problem I'm trying to solve. I was like, well, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, because next week on Monday morning, I'm looking for somebody who might want to go down to the BMW dealer and pick up this 850 that we ordered, that we rented for the week, and then come to the airport with me and pick up Michael Jordan and then stay with him for the whole week. And he said, but I don't know who might want to do something like that. I was like, are you serious? Because I knew that Michael was coming for a promotional tour, but I had no idea that they would want me to accompany him, And so I said yes. And I remember when I was waiting for him in the airport, I was kind of nervous, And I don't remember anything else about that scene in the airport, except there was a white wall, and I knew that he was going to come out from behind that wall. And that's where I was going to see him for the first time. And I remember when he walked out from behind that wall, I just looked up at him and I was just saying to myself, I was like, man, that's really MJ, And so he walked over to me and he shook my hand. He said, hey, I'm Michael. And I was like, I know. You know what I mean? And so anyway, it was a really inspiring week for me. I mean, as you can imagine, and he was like at the apex of his career back then, back in 1991, I think it was. Anyway, so the reason that I'm making this video is not to talk so much about that week, although I will get to that again. I want to talk to you, especially now that we're sitting here and we're talking about, goal setting and achieving your goals for 2020. As I promised you, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to stimulate thought, hoping that, some of these videos that I'm making might help to stimulate you or to put you on the right track to getting you closer to where you want to get to, okay? And so to do that, I thought I would talk to you about two different kinds of people that I've discovered that there are in this world. And as I explain to you the characteristics that they have, I invite you to think about whether or not you know somebody like this or where you might be, on this spectrum. Now, to explain to you the characteristics that they have, I'm going to talk to you about two very different extremes. So I'm going to talk to you about the person who's way on this side and the person who's way on this side. We all know, though, that there's a lot of variations of those two different kinds of people over here in the middle of the spectrum, okay? So here we go. So the first kind of person that I've ran into is the kind of person that no matter what they do in their lives, most often their results are terrible. I mean, really bad. And so when I go and I try to figure out why that is, why is it that these people have such terrible results? What I've discovered is a lot of times we're talking about people who are really negative. They're not responsible. They're not reliable. They always have negative thoughts. If you give them something to do, you know that most oftentimes it's probably not going to get done very well. As a matter of fact, you're better off calling them the day before and say, hey, you're going to be there tomorrow, right? No, because this is really important. And in spite of that, they are, capable of getting to the day of the deadline and say, I didn't get it done. And you're like, I just called you yesterday. What do you mean you didn't get it done? No, and then that's when all the excuses start, because whenever things don't go the way they're supposed to, it's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault, right? It's because I didn't know, because she didn't tell me, because I didn't get the mail, because I thought you meant this, or what, There's always so many excuses. If you give them a good idea, or just an idea that could possibly solve a problem, or help them in some way, the first two words usually that come out of their mouth are, yeah, but Because they just don't believe, and there's always something to complain about, always something that doesn't work. The kind of language that they use with themselves most often and with others is, well, that's too difficult, or I don't think that's going to be possible. I don't think that's going to work. We've never done that before. You know what I mean? It's always this negativity. And guess what else I discovered about these kind of people is that they hang around together. They love being together. They love talking about problems. They gas each other up so that they don't have to do anything. They try to get buy-in for the fact that they're not achieving their goals. Isn't that interesting? And so the question I have for you is, do you know anybody like that? We all do. Now, depending on what circles you hang around in, you might know more or less of those kind of people, but we've all met people like that before, right? And so if I talk to you about this kind of person, what kind of person do you think I'm going to talk about now? Now we're talking about people who most of the things that they attempt in their lives, no matter what the field is, they don't just get good results, they get extraordinary results. Again, I'm talking about two extremes now, and we all know, like I said, there's a whole lot in between here. And so when you go and you think about what separates them from the rest of the pack, that's where it gets interesting too, because you find that these are people that are extremely positive. Very difficult for them to hear them say things like, it's not possible, I don't think it's going to work, you know what I mean? Even if they can't see the way, they figure it out. They will go ask, they'll do research, they'll get somebody to help them, They will figure out a way to get the result that they're supposed to get. If you give them something to do, you know that it's probably going to get done really, really, really well, right? And if you give them something to do that they don't know how to do, they'll figure it out. They'll figure out how to get the result. And if by chance what they attempted to do didn't work out the way it was, they don't blame other people. They look inside themselves and do some self-analysis and ask themselves, what did I do wrong? What could I do differently? Who could help me? How can I get a better result? And they're very proactive that way. They're responsible, they're very reliable. And these people, on the contrary to these people over here, they're full of ideas. They're full of ways to do different things and get things done in a different way. Now, guess what I discovered about these kind of people? They also love hanging around together. And so the question you might ask yourself is, well, why would such high flyers, and just to realize what kind of people we're talking about in sports. We're talking about the Michael Jordans, the Cristiano Ronaldos, the Serena Williams. We're talking about, Roger Federer, Nadal, Djokovic. We're talking about people like that, Or in business, we're talking about maybe Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, or maybe Warren Buffett, Oprah. You know what I mean? We're talking about people like that. They get extraordinary results. And so you might be saying, well, yeah, but it's just the talent that they have. Well, here's where I'm going to come back to Michael Jordan. And I remember a specific conversation that we had that week. And I was just a young buck. And I asked him, I was like having this opportunity to talk to him. I was like, because I love this whole mindset thing, because I know how important mindset is. And I asked him, I said, this might sound like a silly question, but I'm just, how did you get to be where you are? How did you get to be the best basketball player on earth? You know what I mean? How did you do that? And so he just smiled. I don't know if he would, if I would tell him this story today, I don't know if he would remember this or not, but he just smiled and he said, Tone, a lot of people think that I got to where I'm at just because and exclusively because of my talent. And he said, when I hear that, he said, I'll be honest with you, that really kind of bothers me. Because people don't realize how hard I worked to get to where I'm at. One of the things he said, I used to always be like the first one to get to practice in the morning or get to practice, the last one to go home, because there's always something to work on. There's always something to get better. And so, what I discovered way back then was mindset is extreme. Yes, he said, yes, I know I can do some things that other players can't do, but I can also tell you this. And there's another thing that he said. He said, there is a lot of players out there that are really good, that have a lot of talent, but they're not developing that talent as much as they could be because who knows why? Some guys are like, I'm doing good. I'm playing in the NBA, making a lot of money. I'm having fun. Why should I why should I work harder than I need to? You know what I mean? Some people think that way, and they're sitting on the talent that they have, but they could have a lot more. And so what I discovered, like I said, is it's all about mindset. And so here's another question for you. Do you think that it's possible? And I know my friends who are in neuro-linguistic programming, they're thinking, you must have got some of this from that. And I did. But, if you ask yourself this question, do you think it's possible for these people over here that are way on this side to become the phenomenons that are over on this side? What do you think? Do you think it's possible? And what I have come to discover is that there's a lot of things that are possible. Whether or not it's probable is maybe a different story. And because talent does come into play. But here's where, and I'm not an expert in neurolinguistic programming, so anybody who is, you feel free to correct me. But this is my takeaway from neurolinguistic programming. And if you haven't ever picked up a book about neurolinguistic programming, I would encourage you to do that. Maybe look for something by Richard Bandler or John Grinder, were the original founders of neurolinguistic programming, which my takeaway from it is it's the study of human excellence. And so this is a question that I know that they ask themselves. So is it possible for these guys over here to become, these guys over here, or to become these phenomenons over here? And the answer that they gave themselves was, they said, you know what? You may never get to be this over here. You might not have everything that it takes to get here. However, if you start to program yourself, and here we go, neurolinguistic programming. If you start to program yourself to think like these people over here, neuro, and to talk first and foremost to yourself, the things that you tell you about what's possible, what's not possible. I believe it is. I believe it isn't. I think we can. I think we can't. You know what I mean? If you start to program the way you think and the way you talk, first and foremost to yourself, and the language that you use, neuro-linguistic programming, then you might not ever get way over here, but you can improve your situation. You can move closer if you program yourselves to do the things and behave the way these guys behave over here. You see? So with regard to the two different kinds of people that there are, I have a couple questions for you. With regard to your goals that you've set for yourself for 2020, where do you think you are currently on this spectrum? Do you think you're over here? Do you think you're on this side over here? Or do you think you're someplace in the middle? And if you say that you're someplace in the middle, I would challenge you to be more specific. And ask yourself, are you in the middle on this side? Are you in the middle on this side? Or are you like smack dab in the middle? And why is this so important? What I've come to realize over the years is before you embark on any kind of change in your life, it's a good idea to recognize and to understand where you're starting from. Because, for example, if you're like over here, do you think it's more likely or less likely that you're going to need the same kind of training and to the same degree that someone who's in the middle on this side needs? Probably you're going to need different things. You might need some of the same things, but this person over here is a little bit further along, right? So they don't need to start maybe from where this person needs to start from. You see what I'm saying? So it's important to understand where you're starting from. And then the second question that I have for you, which is the question that I just love this question. And that is, if you think about the people that you hang around with the most in your personal life, the people that you spend the most time with, where are they on this spectrum with regard to their achievements in life in general? And so why is that important? Well, we get energy from the people that we hang around. And you can get negative energy or you can get positive energy, right? And so that's the reason I love asking that question. And so one of the questions, to deepen that question, to go into a little bit more detail, I love to ask people, because I've had this happen to me many, many times over the years. And some people say, well, Tony, I've been trying to achieve this goal for a long time, but I'm not making any progress. And so like a good coach does, I ask a lot of questions. I try to ask them, what they've tried, what's worked, what hasn't worked, why they're in this situation in the first place. And then another question that I inevitably ask is, are the people that you're hanging around, are they people who encourage you? They introduce you to other people who can help you. They give you tips and advice. These are people that have already done it. They're trying to show you the way. They're mentoring you. They're coaching you. They give you TED Talks that you can go listen to. They give you books that you should read. Or are they people who are trying to bring you down to their level? And they tell you that it's not possible and that's not for you and it's not going to work. It's never been done before. It's too difficult. Leave it alone. That's not for you. That's for other people. What kind of person are you hanging around? And like I said, if you're hanging around the wrong people, you're going to get the wrong kind of energy. And someone told me, especially over here in Italy, where family is like, like you see a lot of times in movies, Italian families, that's like really, really a strong value over here in this country. Not that it isn't in the United States or in other countries as well, but it's really, really strong. And one person told me once, he said, Tony, my problem is that when I go home, that's where the negativity is. And how do you get away from that? And my answer is, if that's your situation, I would be the last person to tell you that you shouldn't be hanging around your family members or you should just kick them to the curb. I would never do that. That's your blood. That's your family. That's your family. But here's what I will say. If you have a goal that you want to achieve and that goal is really important to you and you're not getting enough support from the people around you, and if those people happen to be your family members, then you have two choices. You can either keep spending 100% of your free time with those people, or you can start going over here and finding some new friends, right? Because these are the people who are going to get you or help you to get to where you want to get to. Another thing that I remember is Floyd Mayweather. I was watching a press conference that he did after a boxing match a few years ago, and he wanted to give a message to some of the younger people that were out there watching. And one of the things he said was that he said, I remember going to, I don't know if it was a boxing promoter's house, and this big house. He said it was an amazing house. And the people that he went with were all just like, just showering this guy with compliments. This is such a beautiful house. And he said, and I gave him some compliments too. He said, but then I went a step further and I was like, how did you get this? How did you get to have a house like this? Because I want a house like this too. And again, it doesn't mean that if you ask that question or, you ask somebody who's successful that you're going to get there. But think about what I said before. You might be able to just move closer to where you want to get to, right? And then I'll tell you another little piece that I got from a seminar. Here I am talking about, goal achievement and, I've written books and I do speeches and stuff like that. I could never, this is a promise that I made to myself years ago. I will never get up in front of a group of people and talk about something that I just read in some book and that I haven't actually tried to apply. I might talk about things that I read in books that enrich the things that I've done and that I'm talking about. But I want it to be, when I get on the stage or when I'm in front of you, even on this camera right now, I want to talk to you about things that I have done. So another little story that I wanted to tell you is about, I am actively in a seminar right now. Actually, it's a coaching program that's 12 months long. And I am paying dearly for that, which is an investment that I'm making in my growth, my personal growth. But so just to show you that I'm doing this too. And I went to a seminar some years ago also with a guy named Brendon Burchard. I don't know if you know him. He's a thought leader. You can look him up on the web. He's got, I don't know, I think millions of followers. He's been to Oprah's house. He's rubbed elbows with Jeff Bezos and some big names. He was interviewed by Larry King. Anyway, I went to his seminar. There was about 800 people in the room, and I remember a woman raised her hand, and she said, "Brendon, what do you think it is that separates you from other people who have tried to do the same things that you're trying to do, but they haven't made it?" And he said, well, he's a really down to earth guy. Anyway, he said, one of the things that I see is that a lot of times when people try something and they try to do it and it doesn't work, they give up or they get disappointed, and disappointment leads to, slowing down a lot of times. It leads to, like I said, giving up. And he said, and the difference between me and those people is that whenever I try something that I really, really want and it doesn't work, I don't get disappointed. I get pissed off. He said, and I'll try it again because I've already decided that it will work. And so if it didn't work the first time, then that means I need to fix something. And if it doesn't work the second time, then maybe I need some help, and I need to go find the person who knows how to do that and who can teach me how to do that, and I will get it done. You see what I'm saying? It's a mindset. It's a mindset thing. And so as we talk about, your goals for 2020, like I said, I'm just here to make you think. So first of all, don't underestimate. This is my personal gift to you. If you might say, well, I already know that, but a lot of times it's not whether you know stuff, it's whether or not you're actually applying it. That's the thing, right? But if you've tried to achieve your goal, or you're trying to achieve your goal, you might run into obstacles, but that doesn't mean that it's not possible. It doesn't mean that. Going back to Michael, Michael Jordan has a lot of sayings that you can just look them up on the internet. And one of these, I remember, he said, I can accept failure, but I can't accept not trying. So, you might run into blocks. You might fail once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. But maybe it's the 11th time because you stuck with it that's when it's going to work. But then on the other hand, if you keep trying the same thing over and over and over again in the same exact way, it's more likely that you're going to get the same results, right? So you might need to tweak something or find somebody who can help you, all right? So as you go and you continue to try to achieve your goals in 2020, I wish that for you. I want you to achieve your goals. I love this, what I do. I love trying to help people and inspire people to get from where they are to where they want to be. All right? So think about, when you're trying and you're not getting where you want to, just think about MJ. If you want to think about this picture, think about this picture, okay? Because you might say, I don't want to think about Tony anymore. I just want to think about MJ. But you can do that too. You know what I mean? All right? So that's it for today, and stay with me now because I got a lot more things to say.